10 News is sponsored by Premier Family of Dealerships. 10 News on WBIR starts now.
Coming up, 1 year ago, on a quiet road in Blount County, gunshots marked a sudden end to the life of a beloved deputy.
Apologize for not protecting him.
The suspect bolted the scene with one officer down and another wounded. The 5-day manhunt gripped East Tennessee before a high-profile arrest of the suspect. Today, a reminder of the shock and support for an East Tennessee community facing the loss of a deputy killed in the line of duty. I'm John Becker with this look back at the life and legacy of Deputy Greg McCowan. We're glad you're with us. And most of us go to work knowing we'll make it back home, no problem after our shift. Law enforcement officers and their families don't necessarily have that luxury. In recent years, East Tennessee has lost several officers to violence, including Blount County Sheriff's Deputy Greg McCowan. On February 8th of 2024, he showed up to help out on a traffic stop like he'd done countless times before, but that was his last call. 8 p.m., February 8th, 2024. Officer Shelby Eggers pulls over Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. for driving erratically. Another officer responds as backup, and the suspect rejects commands by both deputies to leave the car. Deputies then opt for a stun gun, but body camera shows it has little effect. During the confrontation, the suspect pulls a gun. Investigators say he shot the fatal round that would lead to the death of Deputy Greg McCowan and also wounded Deputy Shelby Eggers. She returns fire, but the suspect takes off.
335,
It's not long before two passersby show up on the scene and work to help the wounded deputy. Investigators say the suspect ditched the getaway car and would remain on the run for days before authorities eventually captured him at a home miles away from the original shooting scene. Blount County, East Tennessee, all in shock. Deputy McCowan's family and friends heartbroken. Reporter Krista Lucas spoke to his very best friend.
This is Deputy Greg McCowan with his best friend Greg Willis.
He was very direct. What he said, you could trust in. He was a man that loved with all his heart when he loved.
Their friendship started 20 years ago.
We met. We were actually building boats together at Mastercraft.
Willis says they bonded right off the bat.
We done everything together. Vacations, each other's houses, our families. Our children grew up together from the time they were in diapers.
He says McCowan was the first to help somebody, no matter who that was.
He was true. He was an honest man. He was bigger than life.
Behind the uniform, a human who loved to have fun.
We loved to Jeep, ride side by sides, anything outdoors that had to do with motorized vehicles.
Willis says becoming a deputy was his dream.
I always loved to serve. He loved to protect. I mean, from a total stranger to the ones that was closest to him.
Losing his best friend leaves a huge void.
That's a piece of me that'll never be filled. There is nobody that could ever take his place.
Deputy Greg McCowan was 43 years old and left behind his fiancée, 2 children, and a granddaughter. When the department and the community he serves remained in shock, they also knew they still had a job to do: track down the suspect. Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. was added to the TBI's Most Wanted list. He was featured on billboards all across the region. A $100,000 reward was out for any information leading to his capture. The sheriff says the public wanted him to warn people about just how dangerous this man was before he hurt anyone else. A day before the funeral for Deputy Greg McCowan, officers made the arrest. Lead investigators in the manhunt credited both manpower and technology for the capture of the suspect. The Blount County Sheriff's Office received calls on the tip line during the 5-day search, but the sheriff says none pointed to the suspect. The $100,000 reward for his capture will go unclaimed. At a news conference right after, Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. is set to go on trial next year. In April, a Sevier County grand jury did indict his girlfriend, Carrie Matthews, on an accessory after the fact charge. Matthews is accused of telling Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. that officers were looking for him after the shooting. And DeHart's brother, Marcus, is also charged with accessory after the fact. He is currently out on bond. Prosecutors say Marcus DeHart helped his brother evade authorities after the shooting. One day after he was killed, Deputy McCowan's body was returned to Blount County from the hospital where he'd been taken after he was shot. His body was escorted by hundreds of fellow deputies as well as people who serve with many other departments. Mourners did line that route, honoring him as he passed by. You could hear a pin drop as those motorcades moved by. Days later, Deputy Greg McCowan's funeral was held at Sevier Heights Baptist Church on Alcoa Highway. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee attended, ordered flags flown at half-staff over the Capitol from sunrise to sunset on the day of the funeral. Reporter Vinay Simlot has more on the final goodbye.
Today is our chance to say thank you.
A thank you from the community and from friends.
We met almost 20 years ago at work.
They called him Little G, they called me Big G. I don't know why, ain't neither one of us above 5'8".
For a deputy who decided to serve late in his life.
Thank you, family, from the bottom of my heart. I love you.
The motorcade to the church stretched for almost 10 miles. The service included connections to the last two East Tennessee deputies killed in the line of duty. A recording of Deputy Shelby Eggers singing the national anthem began the service. Investigators say that deputy was also shot when Gregory McCowan was killed last week. The recording is from Knox County Deputy Tucker Blakely's funeral last October. His family was also in attendance.
On behalf of a grateful nation, grateful state, grateful community.
And in a tradition started in Loudoun County in 2022, the sheriff and members of Deputy McCowan's family each received a flag.
Draped our fallen deputy, Greg McCowan.
That was once draped over his casket. Friends told us about McCowan at work and out of work.
Needed a pair of slides, cargo shorts, and a muscle shirt. You set to go.
As the community said its final goodbye.
I wasn't shocked to find out what had happened. But in fact, I can't think of another way that he would have wanted to go out.
When an officer dies on duty, their memory is honored by colleagues with what's known as a final call. It's a dignified way to sign off a public servant for the last time. Deputy McCowan was no different, and there were a handful of words said in his final call, but they spoke volumes about how people felt about that officer.
Comm Center to 344. Blount County Communications Center to 344. This is the Blount County Communications Center conducting a final call for Blount County Sheriff's Deputy Greg McCowan, badge number 344. Deputy McCowan was a devoted father, grandfather, son, friend, and law enforcement officer who served his community for the last 4 years with dignity and pride. Thank you for your service, 344. This is your final call. Deputy McCowan, we have it from here. Gone, but never forgotten. May you rest in peace. 340.
Still to come, more on Deputy Shelby Eggers. The day she faced the man on trial soon for shooting her and killing her partner. We're back with the loss of Deputy Greg McCowan in a shooting, this time last year. And just a couple of weeks after that shooting, Deputy Shelby Eggers, who was with Greg McCowan on the day that he was killed, faced the man accused in the shooting face to face. Here's reporter Vinay Simlot.
Still wounded from that shooting 12 days ago, Deputy Shelby Eggers recalls the night she thought she would die.
I took a breath and I accepted death because I thought he was going to fire at me again.
The man accused of shooting her sat feet away.
He could have shot me in the back of the head. I thought he was going to kill me.
Eggers walked the court through the traffic stop that killed Deputy Greg McCowan and wounded her. Courtroom deputies wore McCowan's badge number on their morning bands. Eggers says she pulled Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. over because he left his lane. When she started talking to him,
maybe upset or nervous about something because he was continually talking.
She says she smelled marijuana and asked him to get out of the car.
He was not very happy about it. He became more defiant, I guess defensive.
McCowan, at Eggers' request, joined as backup and used his taser on DeHart. DeHart watched the portion of the video where prosecutors say he shot at deputies.
I didn't know where I had been shot in the leg. I just felt pain in my right thigh. I knew it was somewhere in my thigh.
During the hearing, attorneys argued over whether the shooting was first-degree murder. The Attorney General showed this video of DeHart shooting at McCowan when he was already on the ground.
The defendant opens the door of his car, sticks his gun at a helpless man on the ground, and pulls the trigger.
The TBI agent testified DeHart told her he regretted turning down Sevierville Road before the life-changing traffic stop.
You see that dash camera video and body camera footage, also both available on WBIR.com and our YouTube page. It is difficult to watch and viewer discretion is advised. The sheriff saying he's seen it once and he never wants to see it again. Deputy Shelby Eggers hasn't spoken publicly much about that fateful night. She continues to work for the Blount County Sheriff's Office and is now a canine officer. Here is reporter Libby Cunningham.
Blount County Deputy Shelby Eggers says she's been with Gino since last March. He's one of her best friends, and she's always dreamed of being a canine officer. They hit the road together a few weeks ago. She says the love that she and law enforcement receive from Blount County residents doesn't go unnoticed.
The community support, not just with the cook-off, but for my job in general, is amazing here. I love working here, love serving the citizens of Blount County. I'm really lucky to be able to work, you know, in the place that I do, and the community support is what makes me want to continue to do my job. You know, sometimes we deal with tough stuff, and having a community that supports us and loves us, and, you know, I want to go to work to take care of the people in my community, so.
East Tennessee has endured a lot of heartache in the law enforcement community. Deputy McCowan's death came just months after that man, Sheriff's Deputy Tucker Blakely with Knox County, was shot and killed in the line of duty. It turned two colleagues and longtime best friends into partners in grief, as we found out on Inside Tennessee back in September. Knox County Sheriff Tom Spangler and Blount County Sheriff Barong bonded over their traumatic loss. You had one of your more difficult days in the last year.
I did, and it's still difficult, John. I don't know if that will ever go away. To have 3 deputies shot and 1 killed still haunts me every day, and it's still emotional. I can tell you where we're at. We were together in Nashville. We made it back, and he stood by my side as others did in their region and area.
In June of 2024, 4 months after Deputy McCowan was killed, 2 other Blount County deputies were shot while responding to a domestic dispute on Old Knoxville Highway near Jacob Springs Road. They were treated and released, and the suspect in that shooting was taken into custody. Again, we rewind to February 8th, 2024. That was a night the Blount County Sheriff calls one of the worst in his very long career.
So sorry that we've lost a young man. I talked to his family earlier. I apologize for not protecting him.
A difficult night for the sheriff announcing what had happened. Last summer, he sat down with anchor Abby Ham for her Heart of the Matter series to talk about that day, his friendship with the Knox County Sheriff, and how he has handled the events since then.
A really tough year for y'all as a department, and I'm sure you as the leader of that department, starting back in February, when you lost an officer and another one got wounded during a traffic stop. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can only say one thing first. I'm not a crier, never have been, but I'm a crier now, okay? I don't know what, it's just that I felt responsible. He worked for me. But yes, that was in my years of service, this first deputy really had seriously injured. The first deputies I've had shot was on February the 8th. I was in Nashville, and the phone call, I can remember just like it was yesterday. And luckily TBI had their plane and flew me back in a timely manner. But dealing with the family, dealing with the manhunt, most situations start and stop in one place. This went on 5.5 days, and I made a promise to the family that I would have him in custody before the funeral. And I don't make promises I can't keep, but I was questioning that one. But thanks to the partnerships we have with the state, local, federal agencies, we had hundreds of people in here assisting us, and hundreds more willing to come across the state of Tennessee. That was very humbling, and they knew what we were going through, and they came to help us.
Can you even believe, like looking back on that, it probably feels a bit surreal.
It does.
Can you believe that this has happened in your quiet community?
No, I can't. Then, almost 4 months to the day later, we had 2 more deputies shot, and that was just, what is going on?
What do you think, back to the traffic stop from February, what do you think happened there? I mean, watching the body camera footage, it seemed to most that the officers followed the exact protocol, but you just never know how things can escalate. What is your assessment of that?
Well, they did it textbook. They both did their job. More patient than most. Shelby was by herself in a rural area, slowed down the process, got back up on the way. Officer McCowan, he's there, that's back up, assisted her in the traffic stop. Again, just as they were trained. And unfortunate things happen. But I look back and said, why did it happen? He had a weapon. He's a convicted felon. That's 5 years automatic. What else he had in the car, we don't know, but I can assume what else he had in the car. He had them both out of the car. Why didn't he just drive off? We'd chase him a while, throw the gun away, jump out and run. We'd put him in jail for felony evading, reckless driving, whatever it may be, and he would have got out and everybody would have gone home that night. But dealing with, when I flew back in and dealing with the first thing I did before I did anything was when I hit the ground is deal with the family. And
how are they doing?
They're surviving. Yeah, they are. And but I go back to, again, I hired him. My staff trained him. I really, feel and felt responsible. But they did it textbook. Some things, unfortunately, just happen.
How have all your deputies responded to that? Have they been unusually close after this? Did it bring everybody closer?
Absolutely, and I can tell that just with me, and I try to get to know every deputy. It's hard to do, but just the hugs, they are me and with each other. It really has brought us a tremendous amount closer.
What did it feel like when you caught the man that y'all say did it, who's now facing charges for the death?
It was just the most satisfying thing I can think, that we did it. We did it within the time frame that I had set. It was satisfying that my SWAT team took him into custody. We were willing to take that team anywhere in the nation if we had to, but I wanted him in Blount County Sheriff's Office, handcuffs and cruiser.
What do you hope comes out of the trial when it occurs?
Well, I said that night, and I'm going to be careful with what I say. I want the death penalty. I think he's a repeat offender. He's been in trouble. He cold-blooded murder, and he needs to be paid the price. But I'm going to say that I want to depend on the family. You know, I ran my mouth a little bit early. I was very, obviously, passionate and emotional, but I need to put that back on the family. I know what I want, but I want what they want. If they want, you know, this sentencing or that sentencing, that's what I'm going to support.
Have y'all become close, you and the family, even more than you thought?
To the process, yes. No, I haven't. I've got people signed to them. Unfortunately, I haven't talked to them in a little while.
Last fall, prosecutors did say they plan to seek the death penalty against Kenneth Wayne D. Hart Jr. And you can watch Abby's full interview with the sheriff at WBIR Plus and through our YouTube page and channel as well at WBIR.com and through YouTube. In May of 2024, the Blount County Sheriff's Office honored the 2 Good Samaritans who stopped to help those deputies following the shooting. Sheriff Barong presenting a Citizen Service Award to Sandra Solomon and Ricky Williams at the Blount County Justice Center. Deputies say those 2 citizens placed their own lives at risk to help those deputies. Williams helping Eggers by placing a tourniquet on her wounded leg to stop the bleeding. The 2 also comforted that deputy while checking on Deputy McCowan until other law enforcement officers arrived. Hundreds of people in East Tennessee lined the route from Alcoa Highway to the funeral home where Deputy McCowan's body was taken the day after he died. We were there and met many different people. Here's a sample.
Just trying to be respectful, trying to show my daughter here that it's people like this that put their lives on the line every day to protect us. The least we can do is stand in the rain for a few minutes and pay our respects.
What do you want people to know about this community?
That they're hurting right now. We're sad, we're angry. But we're gonna pull together.
What can you say about this tribute that's rolling by?
It's like nothing I've ever seen. I've never seen this many police cars in a row before. It just keeps coming. Down by the hospital, there's people lined up. People are getting out of their cars here. It's just really an amazing sight.
What do you want your daughter to take away?
That people like this sometimes give everything for us, and they're here to help, and they have families, and they want to go home at the end of the day just like everybody else. And it's something we can't do without, and not something to take for granted.
I'm joined by my colleague Brittany Bailey, and both of us covered this story, as did our colleagues, extensively. That was a moment I shared just outside the Dunkin' Donuts when that procession came by. And just for some context, Brittany, you know this, but our viewers may not. This was after Deputy McCowan's body was examined at the medical examiner's office, and it was coming back to the funeral home, preparing for the funeral. So we saw several tributes like this along that route.
And I think that story that you told was just representative of so many different individual stories. Everyone had a reason to be out there, and we saw such community support. And if you remember, I can remember the image very vividly of his patrol cruiser, which was set up in front of the Justice Center, just days upon days, just being covered where you might not even know a vehicle was under there anymore. And then, skipping ahead to the day of the funeral, we saw that just times 100.
Magnified. Let's talk about that. It was a bright, sunny day. This is a community of 30,000 or so in Maryville, and then 130,000 in Blount County. Explain the outpouring for our viewers who didn't see it.
Well, I think I got a little bit of a unique perspective because I was here in studio, and so we got to see all of sort of the different camera angles. So we were following TDOT cameras along Alcoa Highway and watching the procession. We were seeing the big flags hung over the highway from the firefighters and the fire engines. We saw people just lining the route. Again, complete strangers, people who had a connection, and it just went the entire way. And that ended, of course, at the graveside service, which was private, but you were there at the church.
and saw very many of the same things that you did just at the church, and the outpouring of support from the law enforcement community and the speeches that members of his family gave about him being a father and him being a brother, and there were laughs and also tears. It was a very emotional funeral service for him. And the other thing I'll say about this story is we talked about this earlier in our coverage, but we haven't seen a death like this in more than 2 decades for Blount County. It was the first that the Sheriff Barong, in his interview with Abby, talks about this, that it never happened in his law enforcement career. And it was a moment, Brittany, that I felt like the world stopped. A lot of times in our personal lives, when we lose a friend or a family member, it feels like the world stops for us. In this case, it was the first time in a long time it felt like the world stopped for our community.
Absolutely, and I think that just made me remember something. I remember listening in sometimes at just the silence as people were waiting, and just that honor and respect that they were paying tribute to this officer as he was on that final route, and I won't forget that day for sure.
We will have more of our coverage coming up in tributes to Deputy McCowan 1 year later, right after this. We are back with our remembrance of Deputy Greg McCowan and his service. We're going to look right now at the future for the suspect in this case. Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr., we're reminding you, is charged with attempted premeditated first-degree murder, 2 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm and being a felon in possession of a handgun. He also is charged with 3 counts of employing a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, 3 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, and 2 counts of aggravated assault against a first responder. In addition to those charges, Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. is facing reckless endangerment, tampering with evidence, evading arrest with risk of death or serious bodily injury, aggravated assault, resisting arrest, and failure to maintain a lane. His next hearing was set for March 31st of this year. He is due to face trial in April of next year. Again, prosecutors saying they will seek the death penalty in this case. Also charged in this case, Kenneth Wayne DeHart's brother Marcus, charged, as well as his girlfriend Carrie Matthews, indicted by a grand jury as accessory after the fact. And there is a third person also charged with helping Kenneth Wayne DeHart Jr. after he was on the run. As for the Blount County community and McCowan's brothers and sisters in blue, things have changed forever since the night of February 8th, 2024. Here are the tributes that continue to this day. The first public show of support for Deputy McCowan came just hours after his death. On his cruiser parked outside the Justice Building, people from across the community offered flowers, notes, and other tributes. Later in February, Neyland Stadium cast a blue shadow over Knoxville in honor of the fallen deputy. And a memorial ride paid tribute to both Deputy McCowan and supported the recovery of Deputy Shelby Eggers. The event drew thousands of people. Then in April, a new tribute at Heritage High School. Students were at a loss as to how best to honor the son of Deputy McCowan. Caden's former shop teacher, Lynn Robinson, came up with the idea to finish the hood of this Mustang Caden was working on with his dad. Students in class reworked the body, painted it, and then surprised Caden.
Be the icing on the cake to really put it back together and a part of the whole community and my school. It meant a lot.
In May of 2024, the community honored Deputy McCowan with a bridge dedication in Big Springs. His daughter attended the tribute to her late father.
Not only was he a wonderful dad, he was a great papa to my daughter, a loving son, a caring fiance, and truly a great friend to have.
Also in May, a new bench sits in front of the Justice Center, a Maryville company donating it in honor of the 4 years of service for Deputy McCowan in Blount County. His name also engraved on a monument outside the Justice Center to all Blount County officers killed in the line of duty. And we appreciate you watching 1 year later after the death of Deputy Greg McCowan. Our thoughts are with his family, the people of Blount County, and of course the law enforcement community across East Tennessee. It's been a difficult year for many, and we will continue our coverage throughout the next year and beyond at WBIR.com of this story.